The FBI estimates in the United States alone at any given time there are 25 to 50 active serial killers. Now, imagine across the world. Andrei Romanovic Chikatilo, aka the Rostov Ripper, was a prolific Russian vampirist-type cannibalistic, pedophilic, ephebophilic, necrophilic, and hebephilic serial killer, brief spree killer, and enucleator, responsible for at least 52 murders that occurred between 1978 to 1990. Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936, in the Ukrainian part of the Soviet Union during Stalin's regime. Due to the agricultural plan, starvation was rampant and stories about cannibalism circulated. At one point, Chikatilo was told by his mother Anna that his older brother Stepan was kidnapped, killed, and cannibalized by starved neighbors. Though the story has never been confirmed, nor has the claim that Chikatilo even had a brother, both his parents were farm laborers who shared a single-room hut with him, forcing him to also share a bed with them. A frequent bedwetter, Chikatilo was often beaten by his mother as punishment. It was discovered later in life that he had been born with brain damage that affected his ability to control seminal and bladder emissions. When the war began, Chikatilo's father, Roman, was drafted into the Red Army, and the rest of the family was left in the crossfire of the German Blitz. In 1943, Anna Chikatilo gave birth to a baby girl. Given the timeline of her husband's departure, the child was apparently conceived outside of marriage. Some theorize that she was raped by a German soldier in front of Andrei. When the war ended, Roman Chikatilo was placed in a Russian prison camp for having surrendered in combat, and his son forced to denounce his father as a coward publicly. Chikatilo's social awkwardness and self-hatred became worse during his adolescent years, when he turned out to suffer from chronic impotence. His condition affected his romantic life and ruined his first attempt at a relationship when he was 23. Awkward and withdrawn, he was generally a good student, though he failed his entrance exam to the Moscow State University. After finishing his compulsory military service, he became a telephone engineer in 1960. In 1963, he married a woman to whom he was introduced by his sister. Though they had a minimal sex life, they conceived a son and a daughter together. In 1971, Andrei earned a degree in Russian literature through a correspondence course and got a teaching position at a local school. Though he was often accused of child molestation, he managed to hold on to the job for almost 10 years. In 1978, he accepted a new position in Shakti and moved there. Lived alone there, waiting for his family to arrive, he began having pedophilic fantasies and would spy on children from a hut by the street. On December 21st that same year, he committed his first known murder, abducting 9-year-old Yelena Zavatnova and stabbing her to death in the woods, ejaculating in the process. He had intended to rape her, but couldn't achieve an erection due to his impotence. Chikatilo targeted children and teenagers of both genders, and also young to middle-aged women. He would usually approach them at train and bus stations using some simple ruse, such as promising them money, drugs, alcohol, or, in the case of his child victims, toys and candy. lure them to a nearby forest, tie them up with rope, and kill them by stabbing them with a knife in order to gain sexual release. He often mutilated them, such as gouging their eyes out, because he believed they contained a snapshot of the last thing they saw. He stopped doing this after he learned that it wasn't true. Eviscerating their stomachs, chewing off their noses, and cutting out tongues and genitals. When he tortured victims, he often fantasized that they were his prisoners and that his actions made him a hero. On one occasion, he actually bit a nipple off a young female victim and swallowed it, causing him to ejaculate. Sometimes, he stuffed his victims' mouths with mud and leaves to muffle their screams, similar to fellow serial killer Arthur Shawcross. He often cannibalized their remains and sometimes drank their blood. Over the following 12 years, Chikatilo committed over 50 known murders. Because reports of crimes like serial murder and rape were greatly suppressed by Soviet authorities and the state-controlled media, stories began taking a life of their own. Among the rumors that circulated was that the victims were being killed and mutilated by a werewolf. The murders weren't publicized until August 1984, by which time Chikatilo had killed at least 30 people. He was suspected of killing Yelena Zabatnova and had been seen with her, but because another man confessed to the murder torture and was consequently executed, Chikatilo was able to continue killing. In September 1984, he was arrested after soliciting a prostitute, having been seen approaching a number of women at the Rostov bus station. His briefcase was searched and found to contain a kitchen knife, a towel, a rope, and a jar of petroleum jelly. Unfortunately, his blood type did not come back a match to the semen found on the bodies, forcing the investigators to release him. This has never been fully explained, and is sometimes believed to have been the result of a clerical error. Other sources claim that it was because he was a non-secretor, which meant his blood type wouldn't be determinable from his semen. Weeks after his arrest, he was expelled from the Communist Party after being convicted of stealing from his workplace and sentenced to 3 months in jail. In November 1990, Chikatilo was stopped and questioned when coming out of the area in which his final victim, Svetlana Karastik, was found. On November 14th, the day after the remains were discovered, he was formally arrested and interrogated. Over the following 2 weeks, he confessed to as many 57 murders, of which the investigators had only attributed 36 to him. The case went to trial on April 14, 1992. Chikatilo had to be placed inside an iron cage when on the stand to protect him from the family members of his victims. His behavior during the proceedings was bizarre, to say the least. Twice he pulled down his pants, exposed himself, and shouted that he was not a homosexual. He claimed to be pregnant and lactating at some points, and alternated between boredom and anger. He also denied being guilty of several murders to which he had already confessed while confessing to unknown ones. When the prosecutor was about to deliver the final argument, Chikatilo broke into song and had to be removed from the courtroom. When he was brought in and offered a moment to speak, he said nothing. Through the defense tried to claim he was insane. A group of court-appointed psychiatrists disagreed. On October 14, 1992, Andrei Chikatilo was found guilty of 52 murders, 21 males, and 31 females. On February 14, 1994, he was executed with a single shot to his head. His last words apparently being, "Don't blow my brains out. The Japanese want to buy them."